Is the gentleman from Texas, Representative Crenshaw. You're recognized for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. Look, I think the clean drinking water and making sure that lead is not infused with that drinking water is certainly something we can agree on. As usual, though, we find ourselves scratching our heads at the proposals in order to fix a specific problem. You know, we look at the price tag on this, $45 billion, and I have to wonder why not start out with a smaller amount and make sure that the policy being put in place is actually going to work. And I have a lot of doubts that it will. I mean, what we're talking about is the vast majority in private homes, where older private homes where lead pipes might still exist, and it's difficult to get to this stuff. And I'm not so sure that the incentives being created here will work. I don't think there's a lot of guardrails in place. So the first question for Ms. McLain is, how do we know where all the lead lines are in America? How do we know which ones to replace?
Thank you for the question. We do have estimates on the numbers of lead service lines in the country, 6 to 10 million lead service lines across the country, and that information is really held at a local level. So different communities have different levels of understanding of the lead service lines that they might have in their system. And
it sounds like we don't know. And I mean, that's the short answer. I know EPA does have an assessment coming out, but this bill doesn't even require that this money be spent on what EPA identifies, does it?
Thank you for the question. The water systems that the water systems have information on lead service lines in their systems, and EPA works to provide guidance to systems.
That would be news to a lot of local authorities who we've been speaking to about this bill. It's extremely difficult to know where these lead pipes are. You have to. Now, what would happen, I'm assuming, is that this money would be used to pay engineering companies vast amounts of money to go survey neighborhoods and see where the lead is. I would assume that would be the case, but here's a problem when we're talking about guardrails. Is there anything in this bill that would stop limitless and endless surveys and wasting all that money?
There are a number of systems that have unknown service lines, and there's guidance that the EPA can provide, that states can provide to help those systems find those lead service lines and understand where they're most likely and to look with them.
That wasn't my question at all. The question is, how do you stop endless surveys and wasting this money? The other thing about this bill is, you know, how do we prioritize? Are any Americans being left out of this? How do we prioritize where we look and how lead service line replacement actually gets sought out? How does this bill do that?
We're happy to provide technical assistance to your office on the specific details of the legislation being considered.
Why don't you do it right now? Do you not know what's in the legislation? Do you not know how this bill prioritizes it? This is a hearing on this specific bill and this specific provision in the bill.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have come prepared to talk about the provisions in the bill, but not at a very, very specific level of detail in consideration.
Well, I do know the answer to the questions I'm asking. I'm surprised you don't. And the reality is that there's nothing in this bill that prioritizes communities with the highest lead readings or homes in the oldest housing stocks, which would obviously make the most sense if we're trying to use the money correctly. Again, we're just talking about guardrails right here, and please come better prepared to speak about these. The other issue I see in this is flexibility. So is there anything in this bill that would allow some flexibility? For instance, you have old homes that aren't going to be around much longer. This is the most likely place where you might have lead in the home. There's other ways, scientifically proven ways, much cheaper ways, say putting an epoxy coating on those pipes to fix the problem without doing a $20,000 remodeling of the home. Does this bill allow for that kind of flexibility? Not prepared? Or what? What's the problem?
My understanding of the bill is that it is a lead service line removal program, and lead service lines are important to remove because they can be a significant source of lead to the people living in the home that is served by a lead service line.
All right, I'm out of time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from California, Representative Peters. You're recognized for 5 minutes, please.
Hey, Dr. McLain, this former